Hi, my name is Jose. I'm here to demonstrate this 2090 on a lift frame with a 2-inch plug spot nozzle. I'm just going to go over some of the features and some of the things that this machine is capable of doing. Today we are going to be running some water just for our demonstration. Let's start with a brief description of how this machine works. We have our hopper that holds our product. Our product is sucked into the product cylinder. Once it's in the product cylinder, our valve actuates, redirecting the product from the product cylinder through the process piping out the nozzle, and then the nozzle closes at the end of the cycle. To cycle our machine, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is push the foot pedal. Continuously pushing the foot pedal will continuously cycle the machine until you release the foot pedal. And then it stops. Let's talk about some of the components on this machine and what they're used for. On the back of the machine, we have an adjustment wheel. This adjustment wheel allows us to increase and decrease the amount of product being dispensed out of the front of the machine via the dispensing nozzle. Next, we have a reference indicator. This reference indicator is here for us to reference to when we are setting the machine up to do it in a very quick and effective manner. Next, we have a locking lever that allows us to lock down this adjustment wheel so the adjustment and the deposit amount cannot be altered at any point. Next, we have a main air drive cylinder that drives our product piston inside of our product cylinder. This air cylinder has 2 speeds, the recharge speed being on the back and our deposit speed being on the front. Turning them in decreases their speed, turning them out increases their speed. Next, we have our 24-gallon hopper that is connected via a tri-clamp connection. Next, we have our valve housing that stores our valve body. Our valve body is what redirects our product from being sucked into the product cylinder here to being dispensed out of the front of the machine via the dispensing nozzle. On the back of the machine, we have our rotary actuator, and that's what causes the rotational force on this valve here. Next, we have 2 fittings on the front of the machine. These are for our pneumatic foot pedal. And then down below the machine, we have our adjustment for our lift frame. And then the other side of that, we have our regulator. On the opposite side of our lift adjustment, we have our regulator. Our regulator provides clean, dry air to our piston filler. Our regulator also has a filter to filter out contaminants such as oil and any other particulates that may be in your air system. The regulator is also required to run anywhere between 80 and 100 psi at all times. I'm going to demonstrate how you can go ahead and increase and decrease the amount of product that you're dispensing out of your filler via the dispensing nozzle. But first, we need to make sure that there is no air to the machine, so either disconnect it or turn it off. Next, we will release our locking lever, which allows us to adjust our adjustment wheel. Turning it clockwise will increase the amount that we're going to dispense. Turning it counterclockwise will decrease the amount that we are dispensing. You can visually see that via the dial counter, increasing and decreasing. Once you're done, you lock it back into place and you add air back to the machine or turning it back on. And just as a reminder, anytime that we're making any adjustments on our deposit amount, we will have to cycle the machine 3 to 5 times before checking consistency in weights. I am now going to demonstrate how we can take this machine apart for cleaning purposes. We will start by removing this product piston, and to do so, we are going to come to the back of the machine. With the air removed or off, we will loosen the locking lever. We will turn the wheel clockwise, increasing the reference indicator's counter. We will keep rotating it until we hit the backmost point. You'll feel it stop. The value on the counter right now reads 1580. You can go ahead and lock your locking lever down. And now as a tip, I recommend slowing the flow control on the retract down. So when the machine retracts, this piston doesn't come slamming back too fast. To have that piston actually come back now, we have to reapply air or turn it back on. And it's just going to be brief. Now we disconnect air or turn it off before continuing. We slide our piston out. Our product cylinder is just held on by a tri-clamp connection. You remove the tri-clamp. There is an O-ring on the inside that creates a seal around the product cylinder. Next, we'll remove the hopper. The hopper is already empty, so we don't have to worry about anything being inside of it. Remove the tri-clamp. I recommend always holding on with one other hand to make sure it doesn't tip over on you. Then you can lift it out of place. Don't forget your gasket. Now we can remove our valve body. We flip our arm back, and then we pull the valve out, and there it is. Next, we can go ahead and disconnect our nozzle. There is two air fittings that you press in and pull the air line out. Once you have done that, there's two tri-clamp connections under here with an elbow. You can either disconnect it at the top of the elbow or down below here at the bottom of the elbow. Either one is fine. There is a gasket that seals the two mating surfaces, so don't lose that. And last but not least, our elbow. And now our machine is completely taken apart. I am now going to demonstrate how we can go ahead and reassemble the machine. First, we will start off by reinstalling our elbow that comes off the front of our machine. Don't forget your gasket. Next, another tri-clamp, another gasket, and then we'll mount our nozzle. Be very careful. And make sure your tri-clamp connections are nice and tight. Next, we will terminate these two air lines. Black goes to the top, red goes to the bottom. Next, we'll install our valve, but before we install our valve, we have to lubricate all of the O-rings with food grade grease. I recommend spreading it on with a brush. Seems to be very effective. Gets into the crevice and coats the whole surface. Once you have performed that, make sure your locking lever is out of the way. You can reinsert your valve. On the back of the valve, there's a little slot line that indicates what direction you have to have this valve in. So you go onto the back of the machine right here, and there's two indicators. Those two indicators have to line up with one another, and once they're in line, that means that the rotation of the valve is correct. Give it a nice tap to push it in the rest of the way. Lock your lever down. When reinstalling this valve into the valve housing, It is important to note that there is a timing mark on the side of the valve and on the coupler that it mates to. When reinserting it, line the two up. If you do not do so, the valve will be 180 degrees out of rotation and your deposits will not be consistent. Now we'll grab our product piston, or cylinder, sorry. I recommend having a little bit of food grade grease on the O-ring as well, just for reinstall purposes. Makes the fitment a little bit easier. Next, we'll install our hopper. Don't forget your gasket. Once again, make sure your connections are nice and tight. Now, we'll reinsert the piston. Slides right on. Do not forget to lubricate with food grade grease all around these O-rings. Next, air is off currently, so we can go ahead and loosen our locking lever. And now we can turn the wheel counterclockwise to insert our piston into our product cylinder. When reinserting the product piston into the product cylinder, it is important to verify that it is going in and not catching on the edge of the product cylinder itself. You want to make sure that when this is installed, it is at least flush with the edge of the product cylinder, that the back face of the product piston is flush. Don't forget to lock your locking lever down, and you can reapply air, and then you're good to go. Hit that foot pedal, and you're back to dispensing.